Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Deaths, back with another Kamihime project video. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different because I want to break down a few things that seem to be a little bit obscure about this game that some people tend to overlook. One of these is how buffs and debuffs work, and the other is also trying to set up things with your souls that basically some people also tend to overlook. So, first and foremost, this isn't the actual party I'm using. Like, I don't actually use a setup, but it's more just to kind of prove a little bit of a point for this video. But going into this, like, I have this team set up a specific way, and that's to lead into the whole debuff thing. But basically, when I go into the souls and all that, there's a lot of people that on videos respond by saying that, oh, is this soul actually good or whatever, confused about how the souls actually look. So here's the thing: if you go into your details, like the full details, this blue button right here, there's this button over here where you can change how your souls look. That's how you change what the soul looks like without changing their weapons, or, I mean, well, no, not the weapons, basically. Although in some cases that's how it is. But this is how you change what the souls look, but not what they do. Because this says Solomon, who is an A-class soul. But this isn't actually her ability set. This is Edison's ability set. And then I'll put Sniper Shot right there for an extra skill. But, that's the whole thing. This button right here, I can change how she looks. Now, with 5 of the souls in the game, which is Edison, Alhazred, Kong Ming, Benkei, and Alexander, you can't change how they look unless you've paid for any of these. Like these little sets right here, like these little looks, like Solomon's look right here, Andromeda's, Lancelot's, and Shingen's. Unless you paid for these, you are not being able to change those 5 specific souls. So you don't get how Edison looks. However, if I was to switch to a different party member, like in a previous video I showed Crowley on my normal attack team, that's Crowley with Paracelsus's ability set, basically. So I can even go to them right here. Like you see, it shows Paracelsus right here. Whoever it shows on this main screen is who you're actually using. But if I go right here, I made Paracelsus look like Crowley. And that's what that is. Like, I can go to full details. You have the Paracelsus ability set right here. But the thing with the first 10 S-Class souls, who will be renamed to S1 later down the line, you can make them look the same as anybody in the line. So it's like Crowley, Cagliostro, Morgan, and Paracelsus. They can all look like each other, even as a free player. But the ones down bottom, these 4 down bottom, are paid skins. So there's that. But, that's the whole thing with that. So, another thing that people tend to overlook too is that there are, like, different things that souls do with these passives and all that as well. That's something else that would be a very big factor, because anything that would prevent you from using abilities does not work on Paracelsus. That's because of this passive right here. And then on top of that too, depending on what you equip for her weapon, will change things. You either get a slower regen if you arcane, or you use a staff, you get defense up. These are tiny obscure things that people probably should pay attention to, because paying attention to them does help in the long run, especially the second assist right here. So that's something that you gotta know. That's an obscure thing about souls. What's not as obscure though is the energy release, and well, most people already know about the fact that you can learn extra abilities and all that. I choose not to with this one, because this is pathetically weak for anybody, because Paracelsus already has an AoE follow-up. And if you want more uptime, you might as well get another AoE character that can do it. I can alternate Dog Dove with Paracelsus if I wanted to. But I got a better ability for Paracelsus anyway. And then this is kind of like, honestly, I don't even understand the point of giving this to a normal attack soul, but okay. But then there's stuff like this. Now, except for Medea's, because it's not that great, because of how ability damage works. But except Medea's, these are very great to have. These give you flat damage increase for everything. And this is something that's not exactly obscure, but still should be pointed out, because it does take a lot of MP to learn this thing. But at the same time, it is very much worth it in the end, even on higher grids. But if a grid is too strong, then this actually isn't that beneficial. Because, like, the buffs definitely would be, but if I was to get more damage out of something like say, a defense down, then it would actually be more beneficial with that. It depends on your grid, but you need to be having a super strong, basically top level will grid before you even have to worry about that. So damage plus is typically very, very good. But the obscure thing about this is the fact that a lot of people don't do this as often as they should, and that's grinding out this cave right here, Ultimate EXP Cave, because of the fact that it's not only going to level up the Kamihime that you haven't leveled up, it's also going to speed up how fast you get the MP from your souls. And you don't have to exchange any sort of soul points or anything for that, even though there are like constant resources for soul points. You can even trade them in this shop right here too. But simplest thing is to sit here and grind the Ultimate Cave if you really want more soul points. So there's that. But getting into the second part of this video, which is I'm going to go to this event for that. But and I've already done some of the event, but I'm going to grind it more later. So going into this event, I'm going to pick my team. I'm going to pick my Adolan. Now, before I even get into that, the thing with the Adolans is the fact that you probably have to test to see which one works best for you, because depending on the grid, this elemental attack one right here for 160% might actually be better. This one right here that gives you a special damage limit increase could also be better. And then this one down bottom, which is a catastrophe Adolan, can also be better. And this is perfect timing for all this. Test these out on your own time and see which one works best for you, because this is one of the easiest things to test. And you can do that in the quest and go into the Malicious cave. Even if you can't complete the Malicious element cave, still use it as a testing ground, or go into EX bosses and use them as a testing ground. In fact, guild competition is also a very good testing ground as well, because you'll absolutely notice a damage spiking quite a bit there, because if you're doing elemental advantage for the whole team, it's 4 times the damage in guild competition. You'll see a spike. But test those out and see which works best for you. I know that for my ability setups, this one works right here. My normal attacks, it also works as well, this special damage limit increase. But for my burst, I'm actually better off with the other two. They're doing about the same result. So that's a little obscure fact. Like, this is my burst team right here. Getting an elemental attack Adolan that gives like 160%, or getting a catastrophe Adolan as a friend, actually helps them out more. But if I'm going on this ability damage team right here, then that's going to be even better for them if I get the special attack or the special damage limit. So I'm going to this team right here, and this is something that a lot of people don't know too much about when it comes to buffs and debuffs. And this is a little bit of a mechanic you may want to pay attention to later down the line, because Malicious Raid does have something with it. Now, there's this whole thing with buffs and debuffs, where they will stack different ways. This is something that everybody will eventually learn on their own, so it'll become common knowledge. And I'm going to start off by getting these going right here. But they stack in specific ways. That's something that's like common knowledge. Now, what people don't know how it stacks is these type of debuffs. So, for instance, I have burst resistance down and it's turn-based. Now, debuffs will go up to 50% except for in some circumstances. Now, I have this right here from Iris, which is elemental, and I have this from Osiris, which is also elemental. In fact, I'm going to increase my chances of landing them with this. And I'll explain a little bit about that in a second too. But so if a buff or debuff is in stack frame, I clicked on it too soon. But a buff or debuff is in stack frame, it is absolutely going to stack with everything. That's something you don't have to think about. Now, some buffs and debuffs are based on ABC frame and all that type of stuff. So, Lug, C frame. This debuff right here is B frame, actually. Now, if I took Ambush, that would be A frame. But, this and Ambush give the same defense down. It's just that Ambush deals damage. But, and Ambush also doesn't have an attack down either. But, here's the thing. When it comes to elemental debuffs, they're special. Because they not only give the attack or defense down based on what it is. Like, if it said a light attack down, it would be it would count as an attack down as well. But these also manipulate the chances you'll land debuffs. So now that she has less light resistance, I have a higher chance of my light characters landing debuffs. So that's something to know. And if it's timed, and one is turn-based, they stack. So these two stack. So what I have right here is basically 40% defense down. Because I know the actual values of it. Now if I land Lugs, that's 70%. If I land Solomon's, that's 90%. So, the thing is, you get up to 50% from all this stuff, except for special circumstances. The special circumstance right here is already the burst attack resistance. This bypasses that. So, I'm technically getting 70% defense down towards burst. Everything else is 50%. But going further, these other debuffs that count as defense down, which is the light resistances and the defense downs, they will counter 40% of the boss's defense buff. That's how that works. And I didn't need to use that. I didn't mean to. I'm just trying to get her stuff back up. So, that said, and I don't think I have enough in the tank in order to get Osiris to land another stack. So that said, it will count as 50% defense down from everything I get. But 40% of the boss's defense buff is countered, meaning it does nothing. So the boss defense buff itself, that's how that works. And depending on your setups and all that, that's how you can start getting some very high damage. Like, this isn't even really a burst team, but you see how high their burst damage is. This is because of other multipliers that have massive amount of defense down, because of 70% defense down towards these bursts, remember that. Among a few other things. And also, buffs for elemental count too. So, since that's like giving me like a higher chance of landing debuffs for elemental, that's how I'm doing all that. So, yeah, that's something to know. Because I did that burst too, I should have enough time to try and stack another one, so I don't know if I have enough time for it. But I'll try to get it in here. So that's the whole thing with that. It's like elemental attack buff is also helping me out. Yeah, I can land it. So I don't know if the boss is going to die from it, but yeah. See, all this is in effect right here. So this turn counter on the stackable shows the turn count for the one that's got the least amount of time. It will only remove one stack or however many expire during that turn. But yes, this is 100% defense down. If you want to include the burst resistance, it's actually 120%, but only 70% counts. So yeah, that can really spike your damage. It can also help you survive things a lot more too, because I have something else that will sip and stack a bit too. And I'll go into another fight for that. But I'm going to a raid, and I'm probably going to have to change my party a little bit for this one. But let's see here, Thunder and Fall. So I'm going to do this. Now, I'm going to have to edit my win team a little bit, so bear with me. But, and ironically I'm using this in here, I'm not going ambush this time because I'm going a defensive route. So, this is other obscure things of how buffs and debuffs stack on top of each other, which is why I'm taking ambush and trial by jury instead. So, I got all of this. I can even remove Aether and put in someone like Frigg in order to emphasize it a little bit more. But on the defensive aspect too, there's specific things that stack and all that as well. And you want to be honest too, my wing team's not honestly the greatest, but it still does a decent amount of damage with how I set them up. So, in fact, they can get 3 full bursts out the gate right now. So, I'm going to do a little bit of setup right here. I'm going to get all that going. This going, set up all my buffs before anything else. And then get this going too. Now, I don't want to use everything because of how this is set up. Now, I have Nula right here. She has a burst resistance debuff as well. And these burst resistance and normal attack resistance tend to be like 10%. Unless they stack. I mean, 20% unless they stack. Because one stacks for 10%. So, there's all that. Now, here's where things get a little bit interesting. Izuna has a special debuff, which is damage minus, as you're about to see. And what this does is flat out reduce the damage that enemies deal to you by a percentage. In this case, if she had enough of these little icons right here, it'd be 50%, but instead it's 25% right now. So, that said, I can couple it with Caspios. And Caspios, I know, is like a huge defense buff for any enemies that have this feather right here. So, those stack together. I think it was like a 50% defense buff for Caspio, and Izuna's like another 50% defense because of her yellow skill. So, I should have like close to 100% because of all that. Plus, I'm mitigating like 4,000 damage that I take. Edison's giving even more defense stacks, but it's only like 3% per stack on this, but it stacks up a lot if you know what you're doing. And then this couples with, like, if it lands, it couples with these debuffs that decrease the damage. So attack down will be counted first, so that's like half the attack, and then damage minus will be counted along with this. So it's really, really reducing the damage I take. And I'm going to have to let the burst play out because, that's how I'm doing this. Like, they're not as strong as my light team, but they're still doing a good number on this, as you can see. Because if you're bursting like 2 million without any sort of damage plus or any assistance, you're pretty good for that point in the game. And then some of them was even given follow-up hits, too. Now then, when I get hit, notice how it says 0. That's because of all of the defensive debuffs and everything that Assapin had. That is why. Like, all the defensive buffs and the debuffs and everything. That is why that said 0. But now I can't sip and do anything right now because they're paralyzed, of course. But now I officially could. And I'm going to do this just to up their burst damage even further. So yeah, even if Foe actually does, like, manage to slip in a nuke for her raging, I'll still be pretty well protected against it. I only have the attack down, though, but I still have a lot of defense buffs. And they are doing a little bit more damage. It's like 100,000 more from Edison's burst, from what I noticed, and same with Izuna. Aether might do more because she seemed like she goes higher. But that's the whole thing. When I stacked all that, it helped protect me very, very well. And no, it was Caspio that was actually doing more. But not in this case. So yeah, that's like a 6,000 right there. I can heal up. But that's the thing with this. When you stack buffs and debuffs, it can actually greatly reduce the damage you take or increase the damage you deal. It only works with teams that very well synergize with each other, so you may want to keep that a factor. But that's the whole thing. I have a team that's centered around bursting, but they can still tank pretty well because of Izuna, because of Caspiel, and if I want, because of Edison, but Edison's already slightly helping with that anyways. So that does quite a lot. Unfortunately, I didn't get Azuna all the way up, but this still should be enough to knock it out of raging. So I'm going to speed up this fight, because the boss is not going to nuke me. And then the frequency of the burst has already got Solomon back on her bots, basically, which is the ability damage and the buffing one. And if I wanted to, I could have used Edison's 100 MP skill. And then as a nice little bonus, I have these in order to help me burst even more. So yeah, you get the general gist of this. So I'm just going to finish off this fight before I continue, so bear with me for a second. And then now that Azuna has a lot more amulets too, this is actually a 50% damage minus. So if I had 50% of an attack down, the enemy's already dealing basically half damage. But with the 50% in damage minus, they actually deal 25%, which is insane. Caspiel's not able to burst, but I don't care, because it's not like this enemy's going to do anything to me anyways. I'm too tanky, and it's too easy. This team is actually surviving Malicious raids very, very well. I can actually tank the no gear mechanic on Thunder Malicious, even though you really shouldn't be bursting in the first 5 turns. It's that good. And also, I gotta rank up on camera. But, so yeah. Another party where I have something very specific set up. This was the one I used for, Wind Malicious. Like, not that one. Yeah, this one. This is the one I use for Wind Malicious because I have basically damage cuts and defense buffs from all across the team. Shamash can actually attract all the damage to her, which greatly helps for one of the, like, it doesn't work for AoE, but it does work for the random hits and all that, which is what the Wind Malicious does, and they will nuke the crap out of you if you're not careful. But I can have Shamash take all the hits and actually be pretty well protected against it. She can even auto-revive if she does get knocked out. Rom has the same guard ability as Shamash, except for she can also put some stuff on one character. In fact, I will load that for my my fire team, because I can rebuild this Edison team for fire. And there's some stuff I probably didn't have in there. I might have gotten rid of a weapon or something, but it don't matter. So this ability right here, if I put it on an ally that's guarding, they basically take no damage. So there's that. But this guard ability from Rom is like, I think it's like a 70 or 80% defense buff to herself, maybe 100. So that combined with the damage cut, she's like already taking half damage from the defense buffs. Then the damage cuts are reducing it even further. It's 30% in Malicious, but 60% in others. Like, that's combining with all of that stuff, and then I got like wind resistance right here. I got another damage cut with stacks with Roms, which outside of Malicious raids, I'm already like 150%, like 160% cut, which means no damage. But then I got her, which also stacks with all of them too. So it's basically like all of this stuff, the sturdy, the barrier, the damage cut, the wind resistance, and everything. Then if I want to go a step further, I have this Adolin right here, who's also giving another wind resistance. I basically can nullify the damage from anyone attacking a raid if I set it up properly. So, well, at least if it's a wind raid, but even outside of it, I could probably do the same thing. So, yeah, that's what I mean by stacking buffs and stacking debuffs. These guys don't even have debuffs, except for Shamash's oppression here, and that's not even meant to reduce damage. It's meant to reduce the frequency of the boss's special moves from the orbs. But that's the thing, they are so well protected because of all that. And that's just it. So when you stack buffs and stack debuffs, it can have very, very good effects. You need to learn how they work. And actually, this is a normal attack team. I'll let them take this spot. So, yeah, that's how that works. It even carries further in other things too, like when you're sitting up trying to deal out some damage. Like, for instance, something with Paracelsus I tend to do a lot, this forced normal attack, technically is like another turn that you take without actually increasing the turn counter. So that said, this EX ability is already got 6 turns worth of effect, thanks to that. But if I have somebody else's forces normal attacks, like Dagda can do it for herself. She's getting 7 turns worth. You see how that adds up? Then I have this character that forces triple attacks for like a turn. It can be 2 turns if I upgrade her. But you see how all of this is like stacking on top of each other. Like, that's why, like, you have to pay very close attention to buffs and debuffs. Now, there is one more thing I need to go over, and that is accessories. And so for that, I'm going to switch my party, and I'm going to go to this normal attack team right here. Also, side note too, don't plus 99 your characters unless you've done all your weapons. And I mean across every element. But in my case, I don't care, so it's like I'm still doing it for characters, even though I've already done that. Because I mostly use the light in this game anyway, but the other ones are still good as is. But logically, you don't plus 99 your characters at all until literally every weapon you own, even on other elements, is plus 99. At least the ones you're using anyway. But something else I need to go into is accessories. So, yeah, this one, actually no, this one should be better because of how I got this set up. So, accessories, when you go into accessory quests, try to do the hardest difficulty you can because you'll get the best stuff. You want to at least be able to clear accessory quests rank 9 to get the angel pieces, but if you can clear rank 10, you are guaranteed an angel drop every run and might even get a second. So, and it's a high chance of getting a second. So yeah, that's how you tend to get some of the best accessories you can get your hands on. Now, when it comes to these effects, there's the, I would say the series effect, which is Angel, Devil, Ancient, and Normal. And it only works for SSR. It doesn't work for the lower ones, I don't think. But then there's the type effect, which is like Bracelet, Necklace, Tiara, stuff like that. I want an Angel in this one because it's giving her a massive, massive healing boost. Which means I need less Ascension on my weapon grid. But for someone that's on like the offense, like for SETI, I would for Bracelet because this team gets a lot of combo attacks. If they don't get a lot of combo attacks, then you might want to go Tiara. But this team can buff themselves with a lot of combo attacks, especially from Paracelsus, because enough stacks of this, and Paracelsus is guaranteeing that you combo. So you will always see doubles or triples. So there's that. But I even got some other characters that's up in the rate of, I do believe Dagda ups the rate of triple. But yeah, deploy nano machines. I don't know if that's to everybody or to herself. But for SETI also has a combo rate buff as well. So you see what I'm getting with on that one. And then the previous video I posted, I showed my normal attack team. This first ability right here is forcing normal attacks for the entire team. After that, it's only the Zeus. But since I can pair it with Paracelsus, this is basically 7 turns of this ability right here, Guide to Painful Strikes. Which means a lot of boosted normal attack damage. If I wait longer in the fight and let this add-on right here come into effect, then I can basically have 3 turns worth of guaranteed triple on the whole team, which then translates to like 5 turns of forced triple attack when done right, by saving Zeus's ability and then using Paracelsus's during all that. So you see how all this combines and how all this, like this is why you have to really pay attention to your buffs and debuffs, because it can really do quite a lot. That's part of the synergy for a team. Now, granted, you shouldn't force some things on there. Like, if you really want to go like crazy with debuffs and all that, make sure you have characters that can actually capitalize on it. But, like I said, though, it's all about synergy. Speaking of which, another thing about synergy, too, something that a lot of people don't seem to know, and this is the last thing I'm going to get into. This stuff right here, on your weapon grid and all that, all plays a factor in how much you can deal damage, and in some cases how you can survive. Because on the survival front, I got max HP, which is Defender, and I got Recovery. And this stacks on top of whatever else I have on like buffs and add-ons and all that. So there's that. But attack up is assault. Vigor is its own multiplier, separate from the attack up. Rebellion's also the same case. In fact, if you have some weird little setups, you can get Vigor and Rebellion to actually work. But they usually involve a character that gives a specific buff, which is Dark Soul and Water Sevarog right now. So that's how you can get Vigor and Rebellion easily, because you can put them on a Rebellion team. But there's a normal attack damage and a normal attack damage limit. Honestly, some people try to say that technical weapons suck. They really don't. It just depends on how you use it, because you're not really using it for the damage limit. You're using it for the multiplier. Because normal attacks have a multiplier of 1 times. This is almost a 2 times multiplier just from what I got. That's why you use that. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, if I was doing an ability damage team, you actually get that for the damage limit up. Because with how soft caps work in this game, normal attacks and bursts will lose a bit of damage. Quite a lot, actually. But you can still get multipliers to shoot far past their soft caps. Abilities is not as kind. They will not go that far past their soft caps, because abilities lose 96% of their damage past their soft caps. And if the Japanese wiki is true about this, it eventually turns to 1% of the damage is kept, meaning you lose 99%. But bursts will keep 10% past the excess, and normal attacks will eventually keep 12% or 12.5% by comparison. So it's literally like 3 to 4 times stronger, bare minimum, on what's kept past their damage limits compared to ability. So ability, you want to get the damage limit increase as much as you can. Even if it hits that yellow number where it says 50%, you still want to do that, because it carries over quite a lot. But for normal attack, it's more for the multiplier, not the damage limit. So even the small ones help, but you prefer a large because it gives you a better damage limit as well. Bursts, however, work both ways, because they want the damage limit on top of the multiplier. The multiplier can stop at 500%, and it's kind of easy to get that in this game. So yeah. In fact, if I switch this over to my burst team, you can even see, because I put more burst weapons on that grid, and they already have a yellow number right here, so that means it's like giving me less per burst weapon right here. But the burst damage is already 205%. And this is only 1, 2, 3 burst weapons. And 2 of them aren't even finished. But likewise, I can go to the ability team and you see this yellow number right here for them. I heard it turns red when it stops working entirely. So that's an indicator. But for abilities, I know for a fact that, because this is something that somebody actually found out, but for ability damage limit, it has to hit 150% for it to fully stop. By then, you have enough to act like as if you tried to up the damage limit by 500%. If that makes sense. But it will turn red when you can't do it anymore. But continuing on from this to, there's critical and keen. Now, the weird thing about this game is the fact that critical is actually stinger and keen is actually critical. I know, but their effectiveness is based on a few factors. Like, they tend to do something where they multiply the chance by the damage increase. So in case for all those stingers, it's basically like, you say you have a 90% chance, and then it's adding like a 20% damage multiplier. It multiplies those together in order to get its actual result. Honestly, this critical should be higher because of how my add-ons work and how my stinger is. So it's guaranteed to go off. So for all these large stingers I'm putting on the grid, it is guaranteed to work. And one of my grids has 3 of them. So that's a guaranteed 60% multiplier. Keen, however, is not as kind, because it's like all that pulls into the chance, and that's what this is right here. Like, it's the chance combined with its effectiveness. The effectiveness is always going to be a 50% damage multiplier multiplied by whatever chance. No matter how much keen you have, even the angel pieces give it, that's how that is. So that's something else is there. Now, last thing I want to get into that's a little bit obscure. well, before I get into that too, these 4+ weapons, the ones that give you XL, as we call it, for Exceed or Elaborate, are very, very powerful when used right. Especially if they come with something else. I can get these two together and not have to have vigor weapons, which is why unfortunately this weapon, that multiplies my vigor is not useful. But last thing I want to get into, this Lucent weapon, don't even think about it unless you know what you're doing. I have 3 characters that can actually use it. That's why I have it. Most people will not use a Lucent weapon. But anyways, that's all for this. Sorry I went on multiple tangents, but I wanted to get this out there. But anyways, some obscure stuff I wanted to point out. All I wanted to say about that. But anyways, that's all for now, guys. More will come soon. This isn't a full guide. This isn't an actual guide, but it's still helpful tips. But anyways, that's all. Take care.